Muy buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a la oficina del Comisionado de Instituciones Financieras de Puerto Rico. Hoy se les ha invitado para compartir con ustedes una información acerca de una acción que hoy tomó el OCIF en cuanto a una entidad financiera internacional, EFI, autorizada a operar desde Puerto Rico en virtud de las disposiciones de la Ley 273 del 2012. Before we start, I would like to welcome and introduce to all of you the colleagues that are accompanying us here today. On my right side is Mr. Jim Lee, Chief of the Internal Revenue Services Criminal Investigations out of Washington, D.C. Via Zoom, we have Mr. Simon York, Director of Fraud Investigations at Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs in the United Kingdom, and Mr. Will Day, Deputy Commissioner in the Australian Tax Authority. Thank you all for joining us today. After we finish, starting at 3:45, they will say a few words and take some questions from both local press and representatives from stateside and international press, joining us via Zoom. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you all for the work that you have done along the rest of the Joint Chiefs of the Global Tax Enforcement, also known as the J5, that have been doing great work on this matter since 2018. Now, with your permission, I will address the member of the press in Spanish.
Recording in progress.
Según mencioné anteriormente, en el día de hoy la Oficina del Comisionado de Instituciones Financieras emitió una querella y orden de cese y desista y una orden provisional nombrando síndico a Europacific International Bank, Inc., una entidad financiera internacional organizada foráneamente, domiciliada en Puerto Rico y autorizada por esta oficina a hacer negocios como una EFI conforme a las disposiciones de la Ley 273 del 2012. La ley del Centro Regulador Financiero Internacional. La orden requiere que Europacific suspenda sus operaciones como EFI inmediatamente por estar en incumplimiento craso con los niveles mínimos de capital requeridos por la ley para operar como una EFI y también en contra de las disposiciones del Consent Order emitido por los OCIF y firmado por la entidad en octubre 2021. Lamentablemente, Europacific ha seguido un patrón craso de incumplimiento con la ley y los reglamentos que gobiernan el Centro Financiero Internacional de Puerto Rico. La OCIF no va a permitir ni tolerar que ninguna entidad financiera internacional que ostente licencias expedidas por el gobierno de Puerto Rico opere al margen de la ley e ignore los mandatos claros de los estatutos y reglamentos aplicables para la operación de una institución financiera. Es política pública de esta oficina desde enero 2021 que el cumplimiento no es opcional. Si uno viene a hacer negocios en Puerto Rico, y más como una institución financiera, como un banco, que es la industria y el servicio más altamente reglamentado en el mundo, y más así en Estados Unidos, en Puerto Rico se cumple con la ley. En Puerto Rico hay un sistema financiero dual, donde la ley estatal y la ley federal aplican. Y esta institución, luego de numerosas oportunidades, no ha querido cumplir. Por lo tanto, los OCIF no tienen remedio de tomar acción correspondiente, y eso es lo que se está haciendo hoy. Puerto Rico is open for business to any international entity, cualquier foreign investment que quiera hacer negocio en Puerto Rico, dentro del marco permitido en ley. Recalco, el cumplimiento no es opcional. Además de la orden que se emitió hoy, de cese y desista y el nombramiento de síndico, se le impuso a Europacific una multa administrativa ascendiente a $765,000 por diversas violaciones a las leyes y o reglamentos bajo la jurisdicción de OCIF. El grave problema de insolvencia que enfrenta Europacific constituye justificación legal suficiente para que OCIF emita la acción administrativa que se ha tomado, dado con el fin de evitar un daño irreparable a los intereses de la entidad, de sus clientes y la jurisdicción de Puerto Rico como un centro financiero mundial. Con el fin de proteger adecuadamente los derechos de todas las partes interesadas, los OCIF designó al licenciado y CPA Wigberto Lugo como síndico de Europacific con carácter inmediato. Al mismo tiempo, hemos citado a Europacific y a sus accionistas a una vista dentro de 10 días para determinar si la orden provisional nombrando al síndico permanece. Quiero dejar meridianamente claro que con las acciones que tomamos hoy en este asunto, en cuanto a Europacific, estamos cumpliendo cabalmente con nuestro deber como regulador bajo las leyes y reglamentos de OCIF para proteger contra daño irreparable no solo los intereses de la entidad, sino los de aquellas personas y o entidades que tienen sus depósitos y o valores en esta entidad financiera y o otra entidad financiera que opere desde Puerto Rico. En todo momento, OCIF le ha garantizado a Europacific el debido proceso de ley, que asiste en virtud de ley, reglamento y la Constitución de Puerto Rico. Inclusive, se le ha otorgado múltiples oportunidades para ejecutar acciones correctivas, las mismas que no han sido llevadas a cabo. Un poco de trasfondo. Europacific comenzó operaciones como EFI en octubre 2017. En octubre 2020, la OCIF comenzó el proceso de examen a dicha institución. Dicho proceso de examen era para el periodo de octubre 2017 hasta junio 2020. En ese examen se evaluaron las operaciones de la entidad en base de las guías aplicables de solidez y solvencia, al igual que su cumplimiento con leyes locales y federales aplicables para el manejo y la operación de una institución financiera. El examen culminó el 25 de junio de 2021 y arrojó una serie de deficiencias recogidas en el reporte de examen de los OCIF, el cual es confidencial. Pero el mismo fue discutido con la gerencia y con su junta de directores y aceptaron implementar y realizar las acciones correctivas necesarias para continuar operando en esta jurisdicción. Como resultado de ese examen, en octubre de 2021, OCIF emitió una orden por consentimiento, Consent Order, en la cual Europacific consintió, entre otras cosas, a efectuar ciertos cambios en su junta directiva y articular e implementar un plan de capital que asegurase niveles de capitalización consistentes con los de una institución bien capitalizada o well capitalized, según definido e implementado por el FDIC. La orden por consentimiento especifica además que de no poder cumplir con los dichos requisitos de capitalización, la entidad tendría que tomar acciones para obtener suficiente capital y continuar operando, vender la entidad o fusionarse con otra entidad de tal modo que garantice el nivel de capital adecuado para su operación y o liquidarse voluntariamente. Además del plan de capital, la orden por consentimiento le requirió a Europacific un plan estratégico, un plan presupuestario, una política de liquidez y un plan de contingencia. Luego de evaluación de dichos documentos y ausencia de otros que la entidad no le entregó y suministró a la oficina, la OCIF determinó que Europacific no ha cumplido con los términos y condiciones del Consent Order bajo los cuales llevaba operando y que esta institución se encuentra insolvente. Por lo tanto, hoy no cabe la menor duda de que la acción que correspondía para esta oficina como su regulador principal y primario es lo que se anuncia hoy, un cese y desista de sus operaciones como una entidad financiera internacional, por el incumplimiento y por el riesgo que representa no tan solo para sus clientes, sino para la jurisdicción de la isla, la reputación de Puerto Rico y la reputación de las demás entidades financieras internacionales. Before I take the questions from the press, I would like to give the Chief an opportunity to say a few words. As I mentioned at the beginning of the press conference, Mr. Jim Lee is the Chief IRS Criminal Investigations and is part of the Joint Chiefs of Global Tax Enforcement known as the J5, with whom OCIF has collaboration and resource exchange partnership through an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the purpose of assisting and jointly collaborating in our investigative efforts particularly in instances such like Euro-Pacific, in which the entity has operations and assets outside the jurisdiction of Puerto Rico. Mr. Lee, the floor is yours. After his words, the floor will be open for questions, and at 3:45, we will turn back to a second part of this conference where the other joint chiefs joining us via Zoom will have brief words and questions from international press. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I appreciate your team's hospitality here with my team that's with me here in Puerto Rico. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And I'm honored to be here representing IRS criminal investigation, but also representing the J5 chiefs. And I know I speak on their behalf. You see Mr. Day and Mr. York on the screen here. We greatly appreciate the partnership and collaboration with OCIF. And again, I'm honored to be here today. 4 years ago this week, 5 like-minded chiefs, like myself, from 5 countries around the world, got together to start what is known as the Joint Chiefs of Global Tax Enforcement. And you heard us say it a couple of times, we call it the J5. Our mission set out was to tackle tax crime together, as 5 countries. And while we focus heavily on tax crimes, we're also very focused on all types of financial crimes that affect jurisdictions of the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, the Netherlands, and Canada. And we've had some significant successes already in just the short time the organization has been together. In January of 2020, each of the J5 countries participated in a global coordinated day of action to put a stop to the suspected facilitation of offshore tax evasion and money laundering by a suspected bank in Puerto Rico. This day of action included intelligence gathering, information gathering, search warrants, interviews, production orders, and subpoenas being issued around the globe. These actions were the result of numerous investigations in multiple countries revolving around an international financial entity whose products and services were believed to be facilitating money laundering and tax evasion to customers worldwide. It was also believed that through this institution, a number of clients used a sophisticated system to conceal and transfer wealth anonymously to evade their tax obligations and launder proceeds of their crime. The operation from the J5 was dubbed Operation Atlantis, and the bank was Euro-Pacific Bank. When we opened this investigation, we were interested in taking a proactive approach to prevent a U.S. jurisdiction from providing tax evasion opportunities for individuals and entities with foreign tax obligations. During our investigation, it became apparent to us that we, IRS Criminal Investigation, and then the broader J5, had simultaneous actions going on. At that point, we began sharing information back and forth through legal channels as appropriate. We're here today because it also became apparent that the actions taken today by OCIF were the most appropriate and expedient actions that could be taken. In full transparency, this is not where I thought we would end up 2 years ago when we executed that global day of action with the J5. This is what I would refer to, or what we would call, a non-traditional component within an investigation, meaning there was no indictment of the bank or those running the bank. But investigations sometimes lead us in different positive directions, and this is certainly one of them. One of the focuses of IRS-CI, and as far as that goes, the J5, is identifying non-compliance in general and then taking steps to ensure that bad behavior is corrected. We're committed to working with a wide range of partners to appropriately utilize all the tools that each partner brings to the table. This cohesive approach ensures that all options are considered and the resolution is appropriate when considering the facts learned during an investigation. I believe this approach increases taxpayer confidence in the system and sends a message to our foreign partners that we will explore all options to combat the use of U.S. entities that further international tax or other types of financial crimes. We're here today because this global approach to investigate these activities and our collaboration with our partners led us to the outstanding work that was already underway by OCIF. Let me be clear. OCIF independently made the decision announced today based on their diligence and continued focus on regulating the activities in Puerto Rico that fall within their jurisdiction. There is no doubt that OCIF's work sends a strong message to others, and that is that the Puerto Rican financial industry will not be a haven for tax evaders or illegal conduct. While we support OCIF's actions and are here together today, we did not work this investigation together in a traditional sense. We stand here together today to display the strong partnership and collaborative efforts that we have with OCIF, and really to commend their leadership for taking decisive action. Moving forward, our work with the J5 countries continues, and collectively, we're working more than 100 civil and criminal investigations within the J5 jurisdictions related to entities and individuals associated with this bank. Those investigations continue unaffected by the actions here today. So in closing, let me emphasize that although this press conference is about a single case, a single bank, this action really touches on a massive undertaking by many partners to secure the financial system, shut down fraudulent entities, and drive compliance. Our partnership with the J5 members is as strong as it gets. It is these partnerships that will bring an end to tax cheats and tax havens and level the playing field for all who do business fairly. I look forward to more announcements in the months and years ahead. Congratulations to OCIF for taking this action today. And I'm now happy to take questions with the commissioner here.
Any questions? Sí. Saludos. Se puede parar si gusta.
Saludos. Voy a hacerlo en inglés para
Sí.
ir directamente allá. Nuevo Pacific Bank is the focus of the investigation. The persons behind the bank, who are they that you could identify, and are you still pursuing actions against individuals related to the organization?
So I'm here today to support the commissioner and OCIF regarding the actions taken today on this bank. What I can tell you is that we have more than 100 investigations, civil and criminal, going on around the globe, but that's all I'm able to really comment on regarding open investigations.
What about the persons or shareholders? Can you share their identities?
I think I would go back to, I'm more focused today on the actions taken today with the bank as opposed to any shareholders or entities or any individual persons associated with the bank at this point in time, just due to the active ongoing investigations.
Could the commission tell us if there are any persons associated with the bank in their filings as representatives in Puerto Rico or any other information you can provide as to individuals related to the bank?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
This one?
No. I was telling him because it's muffled.
This one is more for the commission. She identified persons related to the bank according to their filings or whoever represents them in Puerto Rico, according to their filings. In regards to your office, can you share the identity of those persons?
The identity of the shareholders or related parties or clients of the institution, it is confidential to this nature. We are here only talking about the institution, since the institution has its own personality, legal personality, jurisdicción propia, como quien dice, the shareholders, the information, there's information that is public, but what we are doing today is solely an administrative action towards an institution and its lack of internal controls and its non-compliance. The action is not geared towards its shareholders, nor its related parties, nor its clients.
Who represents them before your office?
They are represented by themselves.
By themselves? They don't have any attorneys or any official agents or any... I'm guessing...
The public information that this office can provide at this moment regarding the people associated with Euro Pacific is the contact person on file. And that person, as it states, it is one of the shareholders, his name was already disclosed, and the other name is Mr. Mark Anderson, and that information is public in nature and has been shared before.
And the first one that
Mr. Peter Schiff is the sole shareholder of the institution as of this date.
Nuevo Día.
Good afternoon. I have a couple of questions. First, Mr. Lee, I would like to see, I understand that the progress ongoing. However, I would like to see if we can basically clarify. You're investigating a determined number of customers that had accounts with Euro Pacific. However, I'm wondering if at this moment in time you're ready or you found evidence that in fact Euro Pacific has committed wrongdoing by letting these customers do whatever you're investigating.
So, like I said, we have more than 100 active, ongoing civil and criminal investigations around the globe. Some of my colleagues at our second 3:45 may be able to speak to more of that, but I doubt it. Because again, active investigations, we can't disclose that as they're ongoing. As far as timing, that's a tough question to ask because investigations, whether they're civil or criminal in nature, take time, and they're not all the same. Some investigations take 6 months, some investigations take 18 months or longer. So it's kind of hard to pin down when there'll be results regarding those other investigations that are associated with this bank.
Madam Commissioner, although I understand that some information is confidential, we would like to get some color in terms of this, in terms of what Euro Pacific did over the past years. How many customers do they have? If that decision would represent that these customers will lose their deposits or not, what happens on that regard?
So, with information that we can disclose that is not confidential, is that the institution has been in non-compliance. It has multiple clients, primarily commercial institutions, entities. There are no residents of Puerto Rico, neither individuals nor corporations domiciled in Puerto Rico. That is one of the restrictions that IFEs have in order to operate. What we can do say regarding the deposits of the institution, the level of information and detail regarding how depositors will get their money back is set forth in the order that was issued today. A trustee was appointed, Mr. Wigberto Lugo, who will be in charge of overseeing the asset liquidation process and the payment of deposits in the order that is stated in the order. So creditors, some creditors come first, others second, depositors, and so on and so on. And that's how deposits will be paid. The level of detail on the number of accounts and who they are at this moment is confidential and cannot be disclosed.
Euro Pacific filings point to about 15,000 customers. I'm wondering if that figure is something that is familiar to the regulator. And the other question, if it's visible, is how much money we're talking about in terms of deposits and assets. If it's visible.
Euro Pacific's annual report is not public due to the size of the institution, and OCIF does not publish that information. We need to provide certain privacy and confidentiality to the books and records of the institution, since this is an ongoing process and we don't want to say or do anything that would hinder the rights of the institutions, its shareholders, or clients as the administrative process moves forward. Well, the only thing we can say is that a trustee was appointed to protect the rights of its clients and ensure, to the extent that is possible, those clients get paid with the assets that Euro Pacific has to date.
And from now on, Euro Pacific officials cannot pursue or cannot make any dealings and transactions, nothing, because of this order, or not? How likely is that it's going to be final?
The nature of a cease and desist order is based on the fact that an institution shall cease and desist any activity that is carrying on. So as of today's date, June 30th, 2022, Euro Pacific must suspend any and all activities as an international financial entity in general, because it does not have authority to operate. Any transaction going forward or any action taken by the corporation itself must be conducted through the trustee. Any transaction ordered as of the hour and date that the order was served is considered to be against the law and without authority to be conducted, and most likely may result in legal violation, both civil and criminal penalty. Yes.
Caribbean Business, correcto. Caribbean Business, correcto. Sí, adelante, José Alvarado, Caribbean Business.
So you don't have an idea of the assets of this entity?
This entity has about, the institution has my legal team is advising that information is confidential as of this moment due to the fact that we don't want to hinder the administrative processes that started today.
So that's normal for all banking and international banking entities?
If the institution is not publicly traded and its financial statements are not published by the institution, we should not, the office is precluded from publicizing the information. The information that OCIF has is confidential and it's for the sole purpose of supervising and regulating the institution. In this case, financial statements are used to determine the solvency of the institution. And OCIF determined today that the institution is critically insolvent and does not have sufficient capital to operate.
When you say the size, it's below a certain level? Is that talking about below a certain level? Or?
Insolvent.
No, I'm sorry, but you're saying that you cannot divulge the information because of the size.
The corporation, the entity or corporations that are private and are not publicly traded, their financials are private.
Okay, when are they considered private? Below what level?
There's no threshold. If you are a publicly traded company that did an IPO, your financials are public. If you're a private company, your financials are private, unless you voluntarily publishes them.
Okay, and this company, mostly what did they trade in, or what did they do at the bank?
Excuse me?
What did this entity,
The products and services offered by Euro Pacific as an international financial entity outside of Puerto Rico includes prepaid cards, deposit accounts, precious metal buying for their own account and for the account of their clients, among and that's it. It does not offer credit to clients or anything. The only cards that it offers to its clients are prepaid cards through a subsidiary.
I understand that Mr. Schiff also is a beneficiary of Act 22. Is that going to affect this status in any way?
That question, we're here to talk solely of the IFE as it is organized under pursuant to Act 273. The shareholders of IFEs and IBEs have a right to request tax decrees issued by economic development company here in the island, but that assessment towards his decree is not within my purview and will not be discussed today. We're only here talking about Euro-Pacific.
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Was Euro-Pacific defrauding its clients or helping its clients commit money laundering and tax evasion?
That is a conclusion that has not been made by your part, this office. The action taken today is solely based on the findings of the report of examination. And as the order reads, that the press has access to it, the action is solely based on the lack of internal controls, lack of compliance with the requirements to operate, and the level of insolvency that the institution is. The action is not based on claims of money laundering or other financial crimes.
And can Mr. Lee maybe amplify that?
Well, I think the commissioner addressed it the appropriate way. That's why we're here today, for the actions that OCIF has taken. I would say, there's, like when I open, there's a lot of ways that investigations get resolved, and not all of them end in indictment. The fact that I'm standing here today along with two of my international chiefs, on the screen, standing next to the OCIF commissioner here, should suggest that our partnerships and collaboration is incredibly strong. The fact that we are partnering, collaborating internationally makes the world a much smaller place for people to use banks to help shield or hide or facilitate tax evasion, money laundering, or any type of financial crime. And I think the fact that I mentioned that we have more than 100 ongoing civil and criminal cases worldwide. Again, those are investigations. They're allegations at this point that we continue to investigate, associated with this bank.
¿Alguna otra pregunta acá en Flor? Porque tengo que tomar en el tiempo que nos quedan unas preguntas que tenemos de los que están conectados online. José, última preguntita, entonces para...
To the commissioner, how many other investigations of this type are in your office right now?
Investigations or exams going on. So if there is an investigation going on, that information is confidential and cannot be neither confirmed nor denied. What we can say is that OCIF is actively and eagerly operating with the purpose of regulating, supervising, and fiscalizing international financial entities authorized to do business in Puerto Rico pursuant to the permit given by this office, as well as regulating, supervising, and fiscalizing international banking entities duly licensed to operate as well. As of today, OCIF has 52 international financial entities duly licensed. All institutions have the opportunity to comply, and we presume that they are in compliance until otherwise proven so. When is it proven? When the financial statements demonstrate that the institution does not have the minimum levels of capital required to operate. When the entity renews its license on an annual basis and is unable to provide supporting documents requested by OCIF for the license renewal process, or when the institution is examined by OCIF. OCIF has been working very hard to increase its resources and increase its staff to improve the level and the frequency in which these institutions are examined. Right now, OCIF had the opportunity to hire 10 new examiners for the Bank Depository Examination Unit, and we have a very strong back-to-back calendar because we have a goal of assessing the risk that these institutions pose to our island within my tenure at office.
Okay, I understand that we have questions from the members of the media connected via Zoom. I see Danica Cotto from Associated Press. Can you hear me, Danica?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead. They can listen to you clearly.
Great. The audio was pretty garbled throughout the press conference, so I might have some repeat questions. Just wanted to confirm, how many clients does the bank have and total assets?
That information is confidential at this moment due to the administrative process. We do not want to disclose any information that may change during the administrative process.
Could you hear that well, Danica?
I did, thank you. And the additional question is, just confirming that is Peter Schiff, he's not being investigated, or is he part of this investigation as well?
Yeah, I'm not either confirming that nor denying it. We have more than 100 active criminal and civil investigations, but I'm not at liberty to disclose who's being investigated, what individual or entity is being investigated.
Okay, thank you.
Danica, do you have any more questions?
No, that's all, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Any other of the members of the media connected that would like to ask a question can, raise their hand or comment over the chat, please. I guess that's a no, so that'll basically wrap up our press conference. One last chance, any other questions? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all for connecting. Gracias a todos los que nos acompañaron ahora. Como les comentamos al principio, tenemos una segunda sesión 3:45 de la tarde, donde entonces participan los dos recursos que tenemos de Australia y de Londres, así que vamos a hacer un log off y volvemos a conectar nuevamente.
Thank you all for being
Thank
here
you
today.
all.